podcast where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-wide facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation.
You know, the ones that don't just sound good on paper.
Exactly. The ones that fundamentally change your bottom line in the barn.
And today, we're diving deep into a feature piece we published about what we've branded the $3,000 system cow.
And this isn't just a fun name.
No, it's a complete economic declaration. We're talking about an animal that will likely never win a show ring banner, but she absolutely needs to be the reason your balance sheet stays positive through the next few years.
Yeah, the sources we're dissecting today are just brutally honest. This deep dive isn't about, breed aesthetics or chasing the latest genomic trend just because it's high on a list.
Not at all.
This is pure, unadulterated economics, and the timing couldn't be more critical. Why the system cow now?
Well, because the era of the disposable cow, it's over.
The one you could afford to call just because she sneezed, that's gone.
Absolutely. The cost of entry has just gone ballistic, and that's the driving force. We're routinely seeing replacement heifers hitting $3,000 US or more.
And in those high-demand markets like California, Idaho, the upper Midwest?
Top breeding lots are pushing $4,000 for verified pregnancies.
Right.
We saw that mid-2025 CoBank data, and frankly, those figures set the stage for a total industry change.
It has to. It changes every management decision you make when you have to budget $3,000, sometimes more, just to get a fresh heifer into the milking string.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about the risk you're taking with that investment.
The stakes are incredibly high.
Which means the mission of this entire deep dive can be distilled down to one single massive goal.
Right.
Saving roughly $180,000 annually in a typical 1,000 cow herd.
And that's just by getting cows to stick around for one or two more lactations. It's that simple.
And that's the reality check we need to start with. We have to recalibrate our thinking.
We do. The most profitable animal on your farm is no longer the flashiest or the one with the highest index score in the catalog.
No.
She is the one that stays out of trouble, requires minimal special handling, and, most importantly, pays off her enormous rearing cost before she's gone.
She is the utility vehicle of your barn.
Not the race car. Exactly.
We are definitely going to challenge some sacred cows here. Yeah. Literally.
I was going to say.
We have to address the elephant in the room that has dominated our genetics programs for decades. The show ring ideal, that classic dairy triangle.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at hard data that suggests that tall, angular cow, the one we've admired and selected for, might actually be the single most expensive cull risk on your operation today.
We will. And we also have to expose where the most hidden profit is leaking. And that's lameness.
A huge one.
We'll talk about why one lameness incident is costing you upwards of $300, and that's a conservative estimate per case.
But here's the kicker.
Yeah, the staggering statistic is that you, the farmer, are probably only catching 1 out of every 4 clinical cases in your herd.
1 in 4.
That detection gap is a 6-figure blind spot we have to address.
Okay, let's unpack this financial pressure.
Yeah.
We have to start with the core issue. Replacement costs and supply scarcity.
Right.
We've been hearing about tight numbers for a while, but the sources confirm this is hitting an absolute peak, and it's not just market volatility.
No, it's structural. The national average is settled firmly between, $2,800 and $3,000, but the real headline from CoBank isn't the price today.
It's the forecast.
It's the forecast. They are predicting these values won't meaningfully recover, won't drop back to a more sustainable pre-2022 level until 2027.
Well, 27.
That's 2 more years of budgeting for astronomical heifer prices. And that timeline is what fundamentally forces us to change our culling philosophy.
You can't budget for a disposable animal and the replacement costs this much and for this long. So why is 2027 the magic number? It's not just a guess, right?
No, it's the time lag from the cow side. I mean, remember 3 or 4 years ago, the dairy markets weren't as strong, and we started seeing that massive acceleration in the use of beef-on-dairy genetics.
Right. Everyone was trying to find a better terminal value for a straight Holstein bull calf.
So we started breeding 50, 60, sometimes 70% of the herd to beef bulls.
Which was smart cash flow management at the time?
It was brilliant cash flow management. But now, 4 years later, that decision has cycled through.
And the bills come due.
It has. High Ground Dairy's January 2025 data showed the lowest expected heifer calvings since they even started tracking the numbers.
Wow.
This is it's an unavoidable consequence of that heavy beef on dairy use and the lower heifer retention the industry adopted.
We are now paying the price, literally, for the efficiency gains we made a few years ago.
We manufacture this shortage.
And that, of course, ties directly into the operational reality of scale and labor.
Oh, yeah.
In a smaller, older tie stall operation, you might know every cow's personality, and you catch that subtle, fresh cow issue on day 5 because you're looking at her udder 10 times a day.
Sure, you're right there.
But that's simply not the reality for the vast majority of our listeners.
No, not at all. When you're running a freestall operation with 700 cows or especially a massive 3,000 cow dairy, you are entirely limited by your labor pool.
Not your desire to manage every single animal individually.
Right. Staff turnover is high and the quality of observation is just inherently limited.
So a cow that requires special fresh cow management or repeated treatments or extra handling, even if she's potentially a great producer, is harder and harder to justify.
You're asking your staff to divert resources to save one animal when they should be focused on the transition group or the breeding group.
Exactly. The subtle, high-maintenance animal becomes a burden.
The system cow has to be inherently durable, low maintenance, stay out of trouble.
Because the system can't save her.
The modern high-throughput system itself does not have the bandwidth to save a high-maintenance animal. If she needs 3 extra days in the hospital pen because she's sensitive to the stall mat, that's labor cost you can't get back.
Which brings us directly to the longevity gap. If that cow costs $3,000 just to get her into the milking string, she has to stick around long enough to pay that back and then some.
And then generate profit. Yeah, we're not talking about a quick flip anymore.
No.
And this is where the academic data meets the farm reality. Dr. Al DeVries's research at the University of Florida is so critical here.
Okay.
Based on purely economic modeling factoring in rearing costs, milk curves, cull values, he suggested it is ambitious because the reality is dismal. Most commercial operations still average only 2.5 to 3.5 lactations.
So we're way off.
The dairy herd data from 2018 put the average productive life at just 35.3 months. That is the longevity gap right there.
Wow.
We are consistently culling cows, usually for transition failure, fertility issues, or lameness before they ever hit their economic stride.
You are taking a loss on the heifer rearing investment on every single animal that leaves prematurely?
Everyone.
So the $3,000 heifer cost is forcing us to immediately look at how we close that gap between the 35 months we average and the 5 years we optimally need.
It's no longer just a breeding philosophy debate.
No, it's a non-negotiable risk management strategy driven by inventory expense. Let's follow the money trail now, because this is where the theory becomes cold, hard, 6-figure cash.
Right.
Break down that rearing cost hurdle and why it's the anchor dragging down profitability.
It is the silent killer on the balance sheet. That total rearing cost, from birth through weaning, feeding, housing, to first calving, it consistently runs between $2,000 and $2,800.
Okay.
We can use the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's 2024 analysis benchmark of $2,500.
So that's $2,500 of capital sitting in the barn waiting to be paid off.
Yep. And if she leaves early, that capital is largely wasted.
Precisely.
Every cow that leaves before she's finished her second lactation, or certainly her third, hasn't fully amortized that initial $2,500 investment, let alone started generating profit in earnest.
It's like a loan.
It is. If you repay the principal but you default before you start seeing true interest gains, you failed. Longevity is the interest gain.
And that's a tragedy because you're also losing out on the best, most efficient milk she'll ever make.
Oh, yeah.
The data is absolutely clear. Maturity pays off massively in the parlor.
It does. We're talking about third lactation plus cows producing significantly more milk and components than first calvers.
And not just a little more.
No, the consensus across multiple studies shows 20 to 25% higher mature equivalent yields. This isn't just because they are older, it's physiological.
Talk about the why for a minute. Why the massive bump in the third lactation?
It's a combination of metabolic capacity and utter maturity.
Yeah.
A first calver is still growing. She's dedicating nutritional energy to skeletal frame development.
Right.
A third lactation cow is a fully mature machine. Her rumen capacity is maximized, her heart girth is wider, she handles the high forage rations better, and crucially, her udder tissue is fully mature.
So you get better components.
You get more stable butterfat performance, and she's better able to handle the metabolic stress of early lactation. You get an investment return and a 25% production bump simultaneously.
So culling a cow early isn't just about losing the animal and the $2,500 rearing cost.
No.
It's losing 25% of the potential output she could have given you during her peak performance years.
That's the core of the argument for the system cow. She's built to hit that peak and stay there.
And this brings us to the $180,000 calculation.
This is the figure that should fundamentally change how every listener views their breeding program. Let's run the numbers slowly for that typical 1,000 cow herd.
Okay, grab that pen, listeners. This is real money.
If you are operating at a fairly typical and frankly too high replacement rate of 35%, that means 350 cows are leaving your farm every year. Multiply that by a conservative heifer cost of, say, $2,660.
Okay.
You are spending $931,000 annually just on replacement heifers.
Nearly $1 million just to keep the seats filled.
Just to stand still. And that assumes perfect health, perfect pregnancies, and no issues in the transition pen.
Which we know isn't true.
Never true. Right. Now, if you implement the system cow philosophy breeding for durability, minimizing risks, optimizing management, and you drop that replacement rate down to a very achievable 28%.
Okay.
You now only need 280 replacements. That costs you roughly $745,000.
The annual difference is huge. We're talking $186,000 in immediate cash flow savings.
Which we round to $180,000. That's not theoretical.
No, that's real cash that doesn't leave your bank account simply by keeping 70 cows one extra lactation.
That is the definition of a six-figure savings opportunity. But let's pause and acknowledge the elephant in the genomic room.
I was just about to ask, we have to address the contrarian view.
We do.
Aren't we telling people to ignore the foundational principle of genetic progress?
That's the argument.
If you are a high-end seed stock operation or run an elite genomic program, you might argue that faster turnover gets you 1 to 2% higher genetic gain per year by shortening the generation interval.
And that's the gospel for a lot of people in genetics. And that model absolutely makes sense for that small percentage of the industry.
Right, if your business is selling genetics.
If your core business is selling genetics embryos, semen, top-end bull contracts, your incentive is to chase the top 1% and turn your generations as fast as you possibly can.
But for the vast majority of commodity herds milking into a bulk tank, does that 1% theoretical genetic bump 7 years from now outweigh the immediate, tangible cash flow benefit of saving $180,000 this year?
No, it absolutely does not. In this commodity market, cash flow stability beats maximizing theoretical genetic progress every single time. It's about surviving and paying the bills.
And there are other costs.
Plus, high turnover itself creates compounding costs. You have a constant influx of first lactation animals, which means your herd has higher variability, requires more intense and careful transition cow management, and demands specialized labor for that constantly cycling group.
That's a great point. High replacement rates force you to run a higher percentage of the most fragile group, the first calvers, all the time.
Right. The durable cow stabilizes your herd and reduces your risk exposure.
Okay, so this overwhelming shift in economics translates directly into a physical shift in what we should be selecting for.
It has to.
Let's get visual. We've always been taught the dairy triangle ideal. Define that for us, and then tell us what the power rectangle looks like and why it's better.
The dairy triangle is the classic show cow. Extremely tall, highly angular, possessing sharp dairy character and a refined, almost delicate bone structure.
An athlete.
She looks like she can convert every gram of feed into milk, and she's impressive on the move. She looks like a high-performance athlete.
She looks like she could float on air, but maybe break if she lands wrong.
Precisely. The power rectangle is totally different. She is moderate, and frame critical word there, moderate. She has a wide chest, a strong heart girth, and plenty of barrel capacity. She looks less angular, maybe even a little more robust, She's built for durability, not finesse.
So she's the heavy-duty utility vehicle of the barn.
That's it. She's got the torque and capacity to handle the workload, unlike the race car dairy triangle, which might look flashy but breaks down on rough terrain.
And this isn't just, personal preference or some old wives' tale. There's solid genetic evidence supporting this shift away from extreme stature.
There is.
I saw the study cited the Czech Journal of Animal Science and the 2021 Review in Frontiers in Genetics. What did that data show?
What's fascinating is the negative genetic correlation they found between stature and functional longevity traits.
In plain English,
the selection pressure we placed on making cows taller made them less likely to stay in the herd.
wow.
They might look impressive, but the research suggests they are simply harder to keep in the system because their frame size is working against the environment we put them in.
But why? Why does the power rectangle work better in a high-throughput, freestall environment? Give us the practical fit in the facility.
Comes down to physics and logistics, and specifically the freestall dimensions.
Okay.
That moderate-framed cow lies down and rises up far more comfortably in standard stall sizes. If she's too tall, her hocks and knees are constantly scraping the concrete or the curb when she tries to reposition herself,
Which radically increases her injury risk.
and leads directly to lameness.
So you're saying a cow built like a brick outhouse just fits the typical barn dimensions better than one built like a skyscraper?
That's exactly it. The freestall is designed for the rectangle, not the triangle.
And what about feed?
Furthermore, the power rectangle has the capacity, that wider barrel and chest, to handle the high forage rations we're pushing today because she literally has more room and capacity and lung room.
More internal space.
We're asking cows to process massive amounts of feed. She needs the internal space to do that efficiently, which reduces the metabolic stress that leads to early culling.
Let's talk about that European experience you mentioned. Did European operations formally pull back from extreme stature? Or did farmers just realize the problem?
It was absolutely an engineering realization that drove the genetic change. As they modernized and standardized freestalls, the tallest cows were overrepresented on the cull list.
For what reasons?
For foot and leg issues, calving difficulty, and metabolic problems. They weren't abandoning type, but they recognized that the cow had outgrown the standard housing.
So they were forced to shift.
They were forced to shift their selection to a balanced cow that fit their cubicles and their transition programs because they couldn't afford to rebuild every barn just to accommodate an elite 2-inch gain in height.
That is the ultimate lesson in breeding for your barn, not for the banner. If your cow is constantly fighting the environment you put her in, you are guaranteeing higher costs in injury and labor.
The power rectangle is simply engineered for the modern facility constraints. She is the cow of longevity.
Speaking of high costs, we have to talk about the silent epidemic in the dairy industry. Lameness. This is not just a secondary welfare issue. It's an absolute black hole for profitability. If the $3,000 heifer is the cost of entry, lameness is the cost of failure.
Dr. Jan Shearer, the go-to expert in this field, rightly calls lameness the single most important welfare and economic issue affecting dairy cattle.
And the cost figures are chilling.
They are. Penn State's analysis put the comprehensive cost per case at $336.91.
And the University of Calgary model came in right around that, at $330.
Yeah.
Let's break down where that $330 goes, because it's not just the cost of a block or a wrap.
No, it's everything. The cost includes the initial treatment and supplies, the loss in milk production.
Which starts before you even see it.
Right, before the cow is clinically visible. It includes the massive negative reproductive impact. A lame cow is too uncomfortable to stand properly for insemination and often takes longer to breed back.
And the culling risk.
And the increased likelihood that this cow will be culled prematurely, forcing you to buy another $3,000 replacement. It's compounding loss.
But the real crisis isn't the cost per case, it's the detection gap. This is the hidden profit leak that should keep managers up at night.
It should.
What's the common farmer estimate for lameness prevalence?
Most farmers I talk to, and historically I'm guilty of this too, estimate their lameness prevalence in the comfortable single digits. Maybe 5%, 8%.
You only count the ones you're actively treating.
Exactly.
And the reality, when trained observers perform formal locomotion scoring.
The reality is that trained observers find 20 to 30% of cows are clinically lame. The industry average is widely accepted as 20 to 25%.
And here is the terrifying statistic.
Farmers, relying on casual observation during milking or feeding, Catch only about 1 in 4 lame cows compared to systematic scoring.
Wait, 1 in 4. That German study cited in our sources showed farmers catching only 24 to 45% of cases.
And the Australian study was even worse. Farmers estimating 5% when the trained systematic scoring showed 19%.
We are essentially flying blind on 3/4 of our lame herd.
And this is the real chronic drain on your profit. The most expensive cows are not the obvious 3-legged score 4 or 5 cows you're already treating.
Because at least they're identified.
Right, they're receiving care. The most expensive cows are the undetected ones, the locomotion score 2 or 3 animals.
Let's define that jargon for the listener. What is a locomotion score 2 or 3?
So score 1 is perfectly normal. Score 5 is non-weight bearing. Score 2 is the subtle one, slightly uneven, hesitant, or reluctant to fully bear weight on one limb, especially on a turn.
But not obvious on a straightaway.
Not obvious. Score 3 is clearly lame but still walking, usually with an arched back when standing. These animals are the problem because they're just off enough to drastically change their behavior.
How so?
They eat fewer meals, they spend less time at the bunk, they take longer to breed back because they're uncomfortable, and they silently drain staff time without being obviously flagged for intervention.
So we're feeding and housing a cow that is operating at 80% efficiency, and we don't even know she needs help.
Which delays treatment and compounds the injury.
Exactly. And that compounds the labor burden, which is already stretched thin.
It's a massive cost of personnel. Every time you have to fetch a cow, or handle her carefully in the trim chute, or go back for repeated NSA fee checks.
Talk about NSAIDs for a second.
Yeah, non-steroidal, anti-inflammatory drugs.
Yeah.
They're essential for pain relief and recovery, but they take staff time.
A lot of it.
They do. In a large herd, managing the records and the follow-up for every NSAV protocol takes dedicated time. If a 1,000-cow herd manages to reduce its lameness incidence from 25% down to 18%,
Which is entirely achievable.
entirely achievable by breeding for better durability and better floors. That's 70 fewer cases per year.
70 fewer cases means fewer hospital pen days, fewer after-hours treatments, and crucially, less burnout for your best staff.
It's a quality of life improvement for your people, directly tied back to the type of genetics you select. The durable cow simplifies management.
So we know we need to breed for longevity, durability, and low maintenance. The power rectangle.
Right.
Where does that leave our classic genetic indexes? Are we throwing out net merit and TPI?
No, absolutely not. The indexes are tools, not rules, and they are encouragingly adapting to this new economic reality. They are following the money trail we just laid out.
Okay, let's look at the net merit 2025 updates from the USDA ARS. How are they adapting to the $3,000 cow?
They are still weighting milk, fat, and protein heavily because production is still the core revenue stream.
Of course.
But now they include feed saved as an economic trait, and critically, they apply a negative weight on body weight composite.
A negative weight on body weight composite. That is the genetic community saying, officially, the big, tall cow might not be the most profitable cow anymore.
It's a fundamental shift in philosophy. It is. They are acknowledging that the bigger the animal, the more feed she requires for maintenance, and the higher the risk of fitting poorly into standardized freestalls.
This negative weighting nudges selection toward a more moderate size.
Confirming that the durability focus is now institutionalized in our top index. And TPI is also adapting, balancing production with those functional traits like feet and legs, daughter fertility, and productive life.
But the real insight comes in how successful farmers are using these tools. It's not just running down a top NM list anymore.
No, not at all. I see 3 layers of application in the most successful large-scale herds.
Okay, layer 1.
First, they use net merit or TPI as the initial broad profitability filter. Is this bull genetically sound and economically viable?
And the second layer.
They layer on a commercial health or wellness index. These indexes bundle traits like resistance to mastitis, metritis, ketosis, DA, and lameness.
So you're trying to avoid the problems from the start?
You're identifying animals likely to incur lower lifetime health costs, especially given that $300 plus lameness figure we talked about. They want the cow that is genetically predisposed to not end up in the hospital pen.
And the third layer is what you call the no knockout traits rule, which I love because it's so practical.
That's the farm filter, and it's non-negotiable. Even if a bull ranks high on the overall index, if he is extreme for stature, or if he is negative on daughter fertility, or if he is weak on feet and legs, he comes off the list. full stop.
So you have to tailor the index to your specific operational constraints.
If you have older free stalls, you need better feet and legs than the national average, regardless of that bull's overall NM score.
Yeah.
You are breeding for your facility, not the industry ideal.
And for the very largest herds, that customization goes even deeper.
Yeah, they actually build custom indexes based specifically on their own farm's cost structure, their feed costs, their cull values, and their unique labor structure.
It's a complete shift from index rank is everything to indexes are tools we adapt to our system.
It is the ultimate farmer-first approach to genetics. But being that selective requires capital up front, usually for sexed semen or genomic testing.
Which brings us to the financial engine of this durability shift.
The highly intentional use of beef on dairy.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Beef on dairy is no longer a trendy side hustle.
No, it's the dedicated funding mechanism for generating better dairy genetics. Let's talk about the premium they're commanding.
It's substantial.
And stable. We are seeing dairy beef crossbred calves commanding around $15 per pound versus maybe $10 for straight Holstein bull calves.
That's a 50% premium.
Industry analysis confirms it results in a premium of $350 to $500 more per calf. The beef market is turning what was traditionally a liability into a profitable terminal product.
So how are the system herds strategically using this tool to breed the power rectangle?
It's precision breeding, pure and simple. They are using sexed Holstein semen on only the top 30 to 40% of their best cows and heifers.
The ones with the best traits already.
The ones with the best productive life, fertility, and structural traits to generate the next wave of replacements. They are only breeding replacements from the cows that are proven to stay out of trouble.
So the selection is hyper-focused on the best of the best to create those $3,000 heifers that will actually last 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. And the beef semen goes on the rest, the later lactation cows, the animals with poor reproductive performance, or those whose daughters have historically been harder to keep.
And that beef check funds the whole program.
The $350 to $500 beef check you get 9 months from now is the capital funding needed to buy the highly selective genetics and the sexed semen that create the durable heifer. It is a brilliant self-funding cycle for durability.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground, from the horrifying cost of replacements and the 2-year price forecast to the quiet financial drain of lameness. Let's make this actionable.
Let's do it.
A farmer just finished milking and is driving to the feed store. What are the 3 most critical things they need to remember from today?
Okay, takeaway 1. Longevity is a front-seat economic driver. It's not a secondary trait. It's the primary way to save 6 figures annually.
So, immediate action. This week.
Calculate your current early lactation cull rate. How many cows are leaving before 60 or 100 days in milk? That metric tells you exactly where your transition problems are most acute. This is your largest capital risk.
Medium-term strategy, say 3 to 6 months.
Start periodic locomotion scoring, even if it's informal at first, to track lameness prevalence. Remember, the data says you're only catching 1 in 4 right now. Closing that detection gap is the fastest way to save $330 per incident.
And long-term positioning, 1 to 2 years out.
Set a realistic, sustainable target for your replacement rate. That mid-20s range, say 24 to 26%, is entirely achievable with system-fit breeding, and that's the range that immediately generates that $180,000 savings opportunity.
Great. Takeaway 2. Breed for your barn, not the banner. This is the power rectangle concept in action.
Yeah, the core concept is the ideal cow is moderate, sound, and low maintenance. She's built to stay in your stalls, not to impress the judge. Immediate action this week. Review your current sire list and eliminate any sires that are extreme for stature or weak on feet and legs, regardless of how high their overall index rank is. Apply that no knockout traits rule immediately based on your specific barn.
And medium term, 3 to 6 months.
When you talk to your genetic supplier, ask very specific questions. Which bulls offer the best mix of productive life, daughter fertility, and health traits at a size that specifically fits my freestalls, avoiding that negative body weight composite?
Make them prove the fit for your environment.
Long-term positioning for that.
Shift your selection emphasis. Don't rely solely on net merit or TPI. Combine them strategically with commercial health or wellness indices. You need to institutionalize the idea that longevity is now a 6-figure savings opportunity, and your breeding program needs to reflect that priority.
Okay, last one. Takeaway 3.
Fund durability with beef. Use specialized breeding tools intentionally. Immediate action this week.
Pull your last 3 years of culling reasons. Identify your top 3 causes of death or forced culls. Which genetic levers, feat, futility, or utter health will reduce the most expensive exits? Focus your breeding effort there first.
Medium-term strategy.
Based on your current pregnancy rate and replacement needs, establish a clear percentage split for your semen inventory. How much sexed dairy, conventional dairy, and beef semen? Start using sexed semen only on your top 30 to 40% of best animals to concentrate those durability genes.
And long-term, 1 to 2 years.
View that beef on dairy premium, that $350 to $500 per crossbred calf, as the dedicated capital funding needed for more selective, longevity-focused dairy genetics 3 years down the road. You're using the beef market to pay for the durability of your future dairy herd.
That's powerful. Instead of asking what's the most impressive cow I can breed and put on a banner, we should be asking what kind of cow is physically engineered to thrive in my specific barns, on my ration, with the people I realistically have running the show. Because that cow, the durable, low-maintenance system cow, is the one who pays the bills.
This has been another Bovine podcast from the Bovine Podcast. For more straight-talking industry analysis and to read the original feature article about the rise of the system cow, head to www.thebovine.com.
Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. We're out with new episodes every day, and upcoming topics will be diving deep into the true ROI of robotic milking systems and navigating the complexity of carbon accounting on the modern dairy. We'll see you next time.